And joining us now to talk more about this is Newsweek editor-at-large and former FBI double agent Naveed Jamali. He is also the author of How to Catch a Russian Spy. Naveed, good morning. We're so glad you could join us.
Thank you.
So let's start with this. Give us your assessment of where things stand in Ukraine right now, especially in the capital city of Kyiv.
So Kyiv is, look, Russian forces have surrounded it. It's a bleak morning, especially with the reports that, as you reported earlier, there's almost 200 civilian deaths, a number of children. It is an awful morning for Ukraine. It's an awful morning for the world and what it means to the world order since World War II. But again, heavy fighting. It's not clear how far the Russians have tried to enter the city. But at this point, it would appear that they have the city surrounded. It is as if Kyiv is under siege. And, that really begs the question, which is how long can the city hold out? How long can the people of Ukraine hold out? And frankly, how much damage are the Russians willing to inflict on the city to win?
Now, what is a win here when we're looking at a large military presence from Russia invading a smaller country, part of the former Soviet bloc, but still a recognized international country? Ukraine is still fairly large in scale, and you have potentially 150,000 or more Russian troops now in this country, and you have the president going on social media. This is a much different war than World War II, which was the last time you saw a sovereign nation invade another.
That's exactly right. So what is a quote-unquote win? Well, let's just go with what Putin's goals are. Putin's goals primarily are decapitation. I mean, he's looking to topple the Zelensky, I don't want to say regime, Zelensky government. He's looking to get rid of Zelensky. And he's looking to take control of the cities and essentially potentially put a puppet government in place. But the very basic goal that Russia has this morning is the removal of Zelensky, the defeat of the Ukraine army. Now, that's not to say that there's not going to be an insurgency, but those are their two main goals. You're right, it's still a very big country with a fairly large population. So the question about whether Russia can actually control Ukraine going forward is very much in doubt. However, look, the Ukraine army, no matter how brave it is and how, they're fighting at, they're outmatched, they're outmanned, and it would appear that the Russians retain military superiority in terms of numbers and equipment and supplies, and that goal of defeating the Ukraine army is very, very much in reach. I hate to say it. I'm not sure how long Zelensky's going to stay in Ukraine. So does that mean that if those two things come to pass, that Russia has quote unquote won? No, I would say that they've met their conventional goals. The strategic aims are very much still in doubt.
So the eyes of the world are watching this very closely, but is the world doing enough to help?
We saw yesterday that the president sanctioned Lavrov and Putin directly. That's a very good step. I would say that I would urge the international community to hold Russian soldiers accountable if they do any violations of international law, laws of war, war crimes. We talk about World War II. The thing that the German army and the Nazis learned is that you can't commit a war crime and say that you were just following orders. And with the reports that a number of children have died, I really hope that the international community will hold Russian military leaders, not just Putin, but Russian military leaders, accountable for any war crimes or violations of international laws of war.
Naveed, if the aim here is to get rid of Zelensky's government, why not just interfere in their next election like was done here in the United States?
That's a great question. I think that this is purely a vanity project by Vladimir Putin. There's no rational reason for him to go into Ukraine. There's no rational reason for him to, violate the norms post-World War II, to put the world closer to war, to create suffering and human catastrophe. There's just no logical reason. Yeah. The only thing I keep coming back to, Sean, is that Vladimir Putin, this is an ego project. He views himself as a czar. He wants to have a legacy. And really, the only reason he's in Ukraine is his own ego, his own vanity. There's no logic behind it. There's no rational reason for him to do any of this. So, yeah, there's a lot of other ways that Putin could have done things that would have appealed to his vanity other than start a war with a sovereign country for no reason.
All right, Naveed Jamali, thank you so much for your insight this morning.